Good evening, everyone. How are you all? We are going to get started here in just a few moments, and I'm looking forward to this evening very, very much. I am so glad to be with all of you. We are technically about 1 minute early, and so we're going to give everybody just another moment or two to jump on, and then we will get started. So I hope you all had a happy new year and a Merry Christmas with you and your family. I'm super excited about tonight's training. It's so very important for everything that we're all working on this year. And so I'm just super excited to share with you some thoughts and some things I know will make a difference in your 2019. So it's just now 8:30. We're going to give everybody a moment or two to jump on. I see people jumping on saying very excited. I can see your messages. This is a webinar, so I can't see all of you. So feel free to say hello on the bottom of the screen. Send me a note. I'm going to do my best to handle questions a little bit later as well. I believe there's a Q&A function to our webinar. So know that I am going to speak for a while. Starting at 8:30, we'll probably go to between 9:30 and 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. That does not mean you have to stay on the entire time. We are recording this, so all of you that have registered for the event will have access to the recording all the way through the end of January. So you'll have it between now and January 31st. And so you'll get to listen to this again and again as well, because this will be, I'm pretty confident this will be a training that you're going to want to listen to more than once. So just know that. So if you have to step off, you can jump back on if you need to. And but either way, you're going to have access to the recording. So I'm super excited to be here with you. I'm just going to stall for about another minute, and I'm going to get started because it is a recording, just to be respectful of everybody's time. So I can see you all saying hello. So if you just jumped on, you're just joining us, go ahead and say hello to me. Send me, I see high fives coming in and hands on the bottom saying hello from every different person that's on here. Awesome. Let me see if I can see all these. Oh yeah, awesome. I can see all the different people saying hello. Super cool. They're raising their hand to say hello. Raised hands. I love it. Q&A. Hello, everybody. Thank you for saying hello. All right. Everybody's jumping on. So hopefully everybody's jumping on time tonight. Hopefully everybody's already on time for 2019. Hopefully you're not late to one of the first things you're doing in 2019, because we're gonna get rolling here tonight. So first of all, let me just welcome you all again. Most of you probably know me at one extent or another, but if you don't know me, I'm glad to meet you this evening. Thank you for taking the time to squeeze me in to your life and to your busy schedule. If you don't know me, my name is Keith Kochner. I love to travel. I love to speak. I'm an international speaker, trainer, facilitator. I'm the founder of mentorfish.com. If you don't know me and you want more information on me, feel free to go to keithkochner.com, and you can find out about who I am, what I've done, where our upcoming events are at, all that great stuff. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about myself this evening because I want to jump right into the training, but I know we may have some new people on the phone, so I want to make sure I introduce myself to you. So let's jump in. It's a new year, and obviously, you know, this time of year people get super, super excited. I'm always cracking up because, you know, the first day of any month could be a new year. Even in accounting, we have fiscal years, different from the calendar year. Some people, you know, in different countries have their own calendar that they operate by as well. But for some reason, every year when our calendar flips to a new January 1st, something clicks in all of us. It's part of our human nature probably to say, okay, what do I want to do this year? What do I want to experience different this year than I did last year? A lot of times this time of year, many of you that know me, I teach a training annually every December called Clearing and Cutting. So a lot of times people are thinking about, you know, what went down last year? What was the successes from last year? Where were the things that didn't work out the way I wanted to last year? But needless to say, this is a time of year where people are often taking inventory and creating visions for where they want to be in the upcoming year. So I thought, what better topic to start this year about than fear? You know, many of you know I've shared a little bit this past year my own journey with fear. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more this evening. But I really want you to begin to think about what is it you're looking for this year, not from that typical New Year's resolution mentality or from the, you know, I'm so jazzed up, I can't wait to, you know, charging into a new year type of mentality. It's not really what I'm talking about. I'm really challenging this evening to think about what is it you'd like to create? Where would you physically like to be? Because one of the number one things that is going to rob you from all of that potentially this year is your fear. So I thought, man, let's talk about fear and what it looks like. And I just had a note sent to me. I better look at my notes too. I get so excited I start going. Many of you know me. I'm like, sometimes I don't even use notes, but I actually did write a few notes to remind me. And I just remembered I'm getting so excited to jump in about fear. I almost forgot a couple things. So through this evening, we're working with an amazing mentor that's helping us increase and be more effective in our social media, on our Facebook, our Instagram. We are looking at, as a company, how can we be more virtually available to people, because we know in today's busy world, sometimes it's harder and harder to travel, or harder and harder to take a day and come to an event, or a 2-day and come to one of our 2-day events. So we are really looking at all the different things about how I can serve you more effectively, even virtually, and do things like that through social media and things like tonight. So we are actually running a social media contest throughout the entire training tonight, all the way through Friday morning. So here's how it's going to work. On Instagram, I'm going to actually pull up my notes here real quick, just to make sure I'm telling you right, because I think I am. And I think you all can still see me, even though I'm on the screen. If I blacked out, text me, somebody tell me really quick. But you can follow me on Instagram at keith.kochner, or add me to your Facebook. You can search me on Facebook, Keith Kochner. I think I'm back now. So you can follow me on Instagram at keith.kochner, or add me to your Facebook. You can search me by Keith Kochner. And if during this training tonight, or anytime you watch it between now and Friday morning, if you take a screenshot of me training you and you post on your social media, or you share an aha, or maybe a key principle or point that stuck out to you, and you share that on your Instagram, or you share that on your Facebook, and then you tag me in it, we are going to put everybody who tags me between now and Friday morning into a drawing. And then on Friday morning, we're going to do a drawing, and I'm going to give away a free 30-minute mentoring session for you, and or you and your team, or you and your business, or you and your employees, however you'd like to best leverage it. So we're running a social media contest starting tonight. So it'll be tonight, Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday morning. And again, if you follow me on Instagram, that'll get you in there at keith.kochner. If you add me to your Facebook, you post something on one of your social medias and tag us in it, tag me in it, you are going to go into drawing. And you can do it more than once too. So I'm hoping you're going to get more than one walk away and one key point tonight. I hope you're going to get several ahas, several things that you are really going to take on for this year. And if you'll post it on your social media that you're accepting the challenge, or something that you learned that's really sticking out to you, or just share about what you created value with, we're going to put you in that contest and draw that Friday morning. Well, I think my little compadre here, Fifi, my little Morky, sitting right here next to me, she hears somebody. I think maybe she's afraid. Are you okay, baby girl? I think she's scared. She needs to listen in tonight. So most of you probably noticed by now, I'm not in our headquarters studios. I'm in my den at our home this evening. So that was my announcement, I think. Let me check everything. Okay, great. I think those are my announcements. I didn't forget, so thumbs up to me. So back to fear and back to this year. I really want to give you the tools and the support tonight. I just want to kind of create a context for this training, because I hope it's a little different than maybe even you were expecting. Because so many people this time of year, like I said, talk about motivational things, and I'm not saying you won't be motivated, but I really want to go a little deeper than that, if you'll allow me to, this evening, because this year, I believe, has the potential to be a phenomenal year for you. I know it's going to be for me, but I know I was still giving too much space to fear in my life, even last year. And I just want to share a little story with you to kind of give you a context on where I'm coming from on this training and this content, because I think you'll be able to relate to it. You know, I've been super blessed in my life, as probably all of us have been at one level or another. And if you're on this training tonight, you are living a blessed life compared to the overall world in general. So it's not that we're not being blessed, or not that we're not living a good life, but I want to help people live their truly great life. I've lived a good life, but it was starting to hit me about a year and a half ago, fourth quarter of 2017, that I was allowing fear to rob me still, even in my good life. And it wasn't robbing me of a good life, but it was robbing me of my greatest life. And some of you have heard me say this before, maybe you've heard somebody else say it. You know, the good life is the biggest enemy of you living your greatest life. And so when I really began to dial in, I started to really see that fear was still robbing me of living my greatest life. I don't want to settle. I don't want you to settle. You know, this year, it's a new year. Maybe you looked at last year and said, you know what, maybe I had an okay year, but maybe I settled in too many areas, or maybe fear still robbed me of stepping into who I really know I'm created to be. And see, even though I've been blessed and, I've had success and I've taught all over the world and I steward 3 different companies and all different things of that nature, at the end of 2017, a little over a year ago, I could just feel the pressure of fear in my life. I knew I wanted to reach more people. I knew I wanted to impact more people. I knew I wanted to be a bigger value to people, but I still knew fear was robbing me. And I'm going to tell you very authentically, maybe some of you can relate to this. And if you can send me a little note and let me know as well. But I would wake up, I would literally wake up in the middle of the night. It always seemed to be right around 3:30 a.m. in the morning. And I'd wake up and I'd be awake, but I was still kind of in that half sleep, half awake state. And all of a sudden, everything in my life started flashing before me, but not like in a positive context and not like in a I'm going to die context, but like in a role-playing highlight reel in the wrong direction. Like, what if this doesn't work out? Or what if that doesn't work out? Or what if you fail? Or what if this falls flat and you let people down? Or people find out this is going to happen? Or what if you crumble under the financial pressure of growing 3 businesses at the same time? Or, what if this fear happens or that fear comes true? My mind would just begin to spiral with these what ifs. And I could literally feel the fear, yeah, people are typing me on the bottom, yeah, you can relate to this. So that encourages me because I'm just being very authentic. And then you're like, Keith, I can't believe where you're at in life. You're still afraid. Well, I'm calling BS and all that stuff. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. Fear is part of what we wrestle with. And I can almost feel that fear, almost pushing me into my mattress. Does that make sense? If I were to try to sit up, it would be like somebody was pushing me down on my forehead. I couldn't even sit up. If I wanted, it would be like trying to do a plank in reverse, but I couldn't sit up. And if I tried to force myself up, my abdomen would be tight and it'd be a core workout, but it was a negative thing. It's I literally felt it pushing me into my mattress. And quite honestly, some nights I would literally cry myself back to sleep, or I would, put on some worship music just to try to make it end. Or I would just start praying and just, God, let me go back to sleep. Please let me go to sleep, and just do whatever I could to fall back asleep so it would be over. And I just thought to myself, I began wrestling with, I thought, man, if I'm still wrestling with fear at this level of my life, at this level of intensity, how many other people are still wrestling with fear? And I got this real strong passion in my life to say, you know what? Many of you know me from my 2-day exchange event or Live Your Greatest Life event. And over the years, my passion around the exchange, and we've helped tens of thousands of people all over the world. But I began to feel an additional message being birthed into me to really help people learn in a practical way, how do you eradicate fear out of your life? And of course, I've been in the leadership industry. I've been on some of the biggest stages in the world. So I'm not talking about, walking on fire or, doing a ropes course or climbing to the top of a telephone pole and jumping off of it, all those different kinds of things. I love that kind of stuff. Those are fun. Those are inspirational things. But what I'm really talking about is how do you eradicate it in your life on a daily basis? Because I believe, and I've learned over 2018, because I've been working on this in my life. And by the way, has it been perfect? Absolutely not. But do I have a peace right now and a power in my life that was missing at the end of 2017? And the answer is 100% absolutely. Does that mean I've arrived? No. I'm going to be very authentic right now in this moment. Tonight is Tuesday evening. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm getting on an airplane and I'm flying to a meeting that, quite honestly, is probably the biggest, most important meeting I've ever had in my life and in my business career. And I can feel the fear inside of me again. It's not until Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the actual meeting is. But I fly out tomorrow to go to this meeting, and I have the fear, but I've eradicated it out of my life. I can feel it, but I've done something different with it. Does that make sense? So it's not like you can snap your fingers and fear goes away forever. But I do believe you can eradicate fear. If I had been going to this meeting, first of all, I wouldn't even have the opportunity to be going to this meeting at the end of 2017 because my fear would not have allowed me. It would have froze me. It would have got me stuck in a rut, or I would have screwed it up, or it would have been too much for me to handle probably, and I would have sabotaged it at some level. But now I'm going, even though I can feel the fear, I'm going to one of the biggest meetings of my life fully ready to go at it. I'm walking straight towards it. I'm not running from it. I'm walking straight towards it, and I'm looking fear straight in the eyes and saying, here I am, and here I come. And that is what I want you to all be able to get yourselves to this year as well. And it's not like you get yourself there and then you're there forever. So what I'm saying is, some people go, well, Keith, you sound like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying you can eradicate fear, but yet you still feel the fear. So let me explain it kind of through an analogy. If you can, track with me on this. Fear, eradicating fear, some of you are going to start laughing probably in a minute. Eradicating fear is kind of like watching your weight or trying to lose weight. So it's like, if you begin to do the things you know in your life that you can do, that will help you manage your weight, you can manage your weight forever. Does that make sense? You can keep the weight from coming back on. You can lose the weight and then keep the weight off. But if you were to stop doing those things that you knew were helping you keep the weight off or helping you keep the weight that you want, the weight could come back into your life. So you can maintain, you can eradicate extra weight out of your life if you eat healthier, if you exercise, if you go to the gym, if you eat proportionally, if you grow your knowledge and get over yourself, and give you the protocol in place to help you change those habits in your life, and you learn how to be continually consistent with those habits, you can manage weight in your life effectively, and you can eradicate the weight gain and the fluctuations in your life forever if you can maintain those habits forever. Does that make sense? So fear is the same way. So you can eradicate it, you can deal with it, and you can get yourself into a relationship with it that you can no longer bow to it, and you can make it bow to you. And if you'll implement these things continually, consistently, you're going to strengthen what I call your fear core and give you the ability to build consistency with it, so that you truly can, as long as you don't get casual, you can eradicate fear out of your life and out of your business. So as I'm teaching you these things this evening, I just really want you to think about that analogy and think, okay, I get what he's saying. It's not that you can just, I'm going to give you some rocket science formula tonight, and then once you do it, fear is gone forever. That would be as foolish as me saying, if I can give you some special little formula to do at the gym tomorrow, and you go and do it, you'll maintain, and you'll immediately go to the weight you want, and then you'll maintain that forever. So it's not that kind of thing, but if you can do these things continually, consistently, you will eradicate yourself. And I'm going to tell you, 2018 probably has been one of the toughest years that I've had. But see, that's how it always is, because when you're really wanting to go to the next level, and you draw that line in the sand, if you will, and you are going to force yourself to go to the next level, what always happens? The attacks come. The fears come out of the woodwork. The obstacles come out of the woodwork. The frustrations, the tragedies, the things that will knock you back, all different things. You've heard it said before, life happens. And see, when life happens, like it has in 2018 for me, we can choose to get discouraged, or we can choose to be encouraged, because I'm going to tell you, every time you take a stand in life to go to the next level, you're going to feel resistance. So I want to talk about fear tonight. And I really want you to role play with me, and I want you to begin to think about a few things, if you will, because I want to get into a couple different line items here, because I want to give you tools that I think are very practical. I want to give you some knowledge, of course, but then I want also to give you some practical things that you can do and begin to do even this very evening, or maybe you'll wait till tomorrow to start. That if you begin to implement these into your daily life, I do believe this year has the propensity to be one of the most powerful, impactful years of your life. I'm not saying that from a rah-rah motivational thing. I'm just saying I know what you're capable of if you were not allowing fear to hold you back. I know what I'm capable of if I do not allow fear to hold me back. That's the whole purpose behind me bringing this training to you right now in the beginning of 2019. So I want to give you a couple things that connect to, if you will. Now, if you don't connect with these exact stories, that's okay, or these exact examples, I'm okay with that. But they're very important examples to me because they're part of who I am. They're part of my core belief system. Many of you know I have a very strong faith background, but no matter what your faith is, I think these stories will still kind of at least give you an analogy of the life that I'm talking about that I would love to see you step into this year. Does that make sense? So let's think about this for a second. I love the story of Moses. the story of Moses. Many of you are familiar with that. Like I said, no matter what your faith background is, I'm sure you've heard the story of Moses. It's a great classic movie as well. But I want you to think about something, because I think we all have greatness. Many of you know that by now. I've said it for years. You cannot walk towards your greatness. You can only walk away from it. And I think fear is one of the ways that makes us walk away from it. But if you think about Moses, don't just think about the story, but think about what would it be like to be up against one of the largest natural obstacles on the face of the planet at the time. What would it feel like to be up against the Red Sea with over 5 million people following your lead? So they all followed you, and now you've led them up against one of the biggest, largest bodies of water in the region. And in essence, you're almost trapped because there's a large army pursuing you now that really would like to kill all of you. Imagine how he must have felt. I can tell you this, if he didn't have a grasp on fear, if he didn't know how to eradicate fear in his life, how would he have been able to lead that many people to that edge of the sea? You know, many of you know, I'm sure have heard the story about David and Goliath. Imagine what it would be to be a young teenager in the midst of the entire army of your country, and your entire army is too scared to go out and face the giant. And you say, wait a second, I'm going to go conquer that giant. And you step in front of your country's entire army by yourself, and you walk out as a teenager to face one of the largest human beings to ever walk the planet. Think about those kinds of stories. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, I love stories like that. I mean, if you look at Elijah and the servant, if you're familiar with the story in the gate, if you look at Gideon, that story is just unbelievable. I mean, there are so many phenomenal stories in that book that I love to read. It was written 2,000 years ago. But I don't just read it from a story type telling mentality. I think to myself, I'm like, man, what did they know? What did they do to overcome the fear that they had that enabled them to be in that position? Because see, what I'm trying to make the point is, we all want to be at the top of our field. We all want to be in front of the pack. And I believe deep down, if you look back deep inside of who you are, you have something amazing that you're called to do. Maybe you want to build an orphanage. Maybe you want to build an entire church. Maybe you want to start an entire new school system. Maybe you want to do something that's never been done before. Maybe it's at the level of the examples that I just gave you. Maybe it's at the level of something that we would define as the miraculous. Maybe you were designed to do something this year in 2019 that others would describe as miraculous. Think about that. Now, I'm not just trying to get you excited. I'm trying to get you to see that if we don't understand how to eradicate the fear in our life, chances are we'll never truly allow ourselves to be positioned in such a place to make that level of an impact, our influence in our life and or in our businesses. You know, I'm in business. I love to teach. Mentorship Mastery is a cause-based business. We have our fitness company. It's a cause-based entity. You know, we love to give. We gave more in 2018 than we've ever given before. You know, we only want more so we can do more with it. You know, money's only good for the good that it can do. You know, I don't know what your vision is, but I know you have one. And I know I have one. And I'm not going to share all the details of my entire vision of what I have for my life and I feel like God's called me to do. But what I am going to tell you is this. If I haven't learned and I can stay consistent with what I'm teaching you this evening, fear is going to rob me of that potential. It's going to rob me. You know, I always tease and please don't send me notes. You'll have probably a few opportunities tonight to send me notes. I have a huge faith background, so don't think this is being sacrilegious, but I would love to say, hey, if there was going to be a sequel to the Bible written, or the Bible B, or the Bible version 2, I'd want to be in it. Does that make sense? You'd want to be in it. What kind of miraculous things and what kind of greatness would we step into, could we step into, that would qualify us, that hundreds or thousands of years from now, somebody might be talking about you as an example, like I just talked about Moses, Gideon, Elijah, all those different things. Think about how powerful that could be. I believe you have that kind of power and greatness within you. And I believe one of the reasons why our world is in the shape that it is in today, and that's not a political or economical statement or anything like that, I'm just saying, it doesn't take a rocket science to look out the window and figure out we're not in the best shape we've ever been. You want to know why I believe that is? It's because so few people are truly walking in their greatness. So few people are settling for something less than they were designed to live and or be. And one of the biggest things that robs people of that is fear. So we've got to eradicate the fear out of our life and out of our business. So hopefully I've got your attention now a little bit, thinking about who you are, thinking about what you're able to do, what you were created to do, maybe what you've been wanting to do for quite some time, but maybe have never really been able to get to it at the level that you've liked. Maybe maybe you've had a good life, maybe you've had a very blessed life, but there's still another level. I always talk about, hey, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. See, in my opinion, I'm just getting started. And now that I know I'm getting fear out of the way, and I'm putting the things in life that I'm going to be teaching you all this evening, and maybe even past this evening, I'm putting those things in place in my life that I know I'm going to start doing things that have the power to truly change people, truly change my family, change my community, change our country, change our world. What are you called to do at that level? It's something. And the only reason you may not believe that it's true for you right now is because of fear. Well, what if I did have something like that? And what if I failed? Or what if I'm making it up in my head and it's not real? Forget all of that and just dial into what I want to share with you. So we got to learn how to eradicate fear. But I want you to do something with me. Hopefully by now, you have a pen and some paper next to you. Hopefully, if you know me by now well enough, you probably came prepared with that pen and paper. But if you didn't, now would be a good time to grab a pen and paper real quick, because I want you to do a few things with me. And I want you to get that as I take a quick drink of water. And while you're doing that, I'm going to look at my little screen here because I've got some things that have come in. No open questions. Okay. I see some more hands raised down here. That's great. So I want you to do something. And you're not going to have to share this with anybody. I just want to let you know that ahead of time. But I want to walk you through a process. And then I'm going to kind of lead you into some of the principles I really want to share with you this evening. So I want you to think about this. And we're not going to take a real long time. One of the things I'm considering is creating an entire one-day eradicating fear event, like really helping people walk through it, maybe a 2-day. I love doing, no matter how virtually available I will become, I still love doing live events with live people because there's so much we can get done so quickly. So we're not going to take a lot of time with this evening, like maybe we would do if we were together in a live event. But I do want you to take a few moments and do this. I want you to grab your piece of paper. And I just want you to think to yourself for a second. I've talked to you about these different things. I've probably already got you dialed in a little bit and probably said something at one level or another that has resonated with you. But the fear is already in your mind again. Or maybe you're familiar with the fear because you just got done thinking about what you didn't accomplish in 2018. And maybe you're frustrated. Maybe you are not wanting to settle for that again in 2019. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to just take a few minutes. I'm going to watch my watch. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Here's what I want you to do. On your piece of paper, maybe it's your journal or piece of notebook paper, whatever it is for you, I want you to write down, just in a list, what are your fears? What are your fears? And I'm going to be as authentic can be with you as you're writing yours. Like I gave you my example. I'm leaving tomorrow to go to one of the biggest meetings in my life. I have a fear of what if it's just another disappointment and it doesn't go the way I like it to go? My fears, maybe what if I say the wrong thing? My fears, what if I talk too fast and they don't understand me? Or what if I talk too fast, they think that I'm just, a fast talking, slick salesperson, because they don't know me like many of you know me, What if I got to come back and tell the people that have been praying for this meeting that it didn't go the way I wanted it to go? What if I go make a fool of myself? What if the company and the idea isn't as good as I think it is? Or what if it doesn't grow at the rate that I think it's going to and it's already began to grow? That general fear. What if they just don't like me? The fear of what other people think. Those are some of my fears. So hopefully you're writing down your fears at the same time I was sharing some of mine with you. I have a fear. I've talked about this fear message all of 2018, but I've been afraid to really put it out there because I'm so well known for the exchange. I'm like, okay, or people think it's going to be a gimmick, or think it's going to be just another product, because that's the furthest thing from who I am. Most of you know me by now. I'm not about products and selling and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I have things and resources that I offer people, but not like the typical industry. So I have all those fears. So hopefully I've given you a few moments and I haven't distracted you while you're writing your own list, but I want just to share with you some of mine, because I'm going to kind of walk through that process with you. So raise your hand really quick if you got some fears written down. I think you all know, I think there's a little thing on the bottom. You can raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've got some fears written down. Okay, I see the numbers going through the roof. Okay, good. Awesome. I like this little thing. I love this kind of deal. I'm loving this technology. I'm going to acknowledge I was a little afraid tonight to do all this because I'm not very technically advanced. Lots of fears, right? I was afraid to do this, but my staff and my team have been encouraged me to do these different things. So I'm doing more and more of them so we can all relate. So you've got some fears written down. It's wonderful. So now here's what I want you to do next. Right below that list of fears, my list is ridiculous. Hey, don't judge it. It's what it is. And that's what I love about this, because you know what? This is why we're talking about it. Because so many people think fear is taboo. They're afraid to acknowledge their fears. They're afraid to talk about fear. Because why? Because we're afraid of what other people are going to think about us. I'm afraid to talk about my fear because people are going to go, Keith, you're the mentor. You teach to tens of thousands of people every year. And if you're afraid, why am I listening to you? I'm afraid that people are going to stop coming to my events if they hear that I'm afraid too. That's not what it's about. We all have fear. It's about being authentically real. And when we are, we will all realize we all have some of the very same fears. And when we learn how to walk through them, we'll all walk through them too. So here's what I want you to do next. I want you to make a little, maybe it's a journal entry, maybe it's a couple sentences, or maybe it's just a list. I want you to think about, let's just use last year as an example. I want you to write down, you already written down, what are your fears? Beneath that, I want you to write down, if you will, what have you already recognized that fear has cost you? What are the prices that you have paid for fear? Examples may be, is it a lack of financial resources? Did you not grow your business as effectively as you could because you were afraid of talking to people? Maybe you're an entrepreneur like I am and you wanted to start a business this year and you swore 2018 would be the year that you started the business, but you still didn't. Has your fear cost you a connection with somebody? Has your fear of asking for forgiveness cost you something in your life? Has your fear of vulnerability cost you intimacy in your relationship or in your marriage? What has fear cost you? I just want you to make a list. What prices have you paid for allowing these fears into your life? Something maybe little things on a daily basis. Maybe you just don't have as much joy. Maybe it's disappointment. Maybe it's discouragement. Maybe it's those kind of words for you. And there's no right or wrong answer, by the way. But just make a list of what fear has cost you. Okay? Now what I'd like you to do, I'll give you another moment. I don't want to rush. I want to give you that moment to write these things down. And let's do this. Raise your hand again on the bottom if you've got a few things written down that you've identified some prices that fear has cost you. Okay, I see all the hands going up again. Okay, good. Now what I want you to do is this. Here's what I want you to think about. And this is what I would call a little bit of a closed eye exercise. So you can just close your eyes for a second. I just want to ask you this. And I want you to visualize for a second. What would your life look like if those fears were no longer there? What would you be able to do? Where would you be? And what would you be doing without these fears in your life? And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think with your eyes closed for a second. So I'm going to be quiet for this one. I just want you to think for a second. So everybody close your eyes just for a moment. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. I just want you to let go for a minute. I want you to visualize, where would you be? What would you be doing? And what would your life look like without fear? Go ahead and begin. All right. Go ahead and open your eyes for a second. And I am going to ask you to document this. Thinking is one thing, documenting is another. I want you to very quickly take your pen and your paper and write down what you saw. You can write it in a paragraph form. You can write it in sentences. If it's a list, you can make a quick list. I just want you to anchor yourself to, at some level, what you just saw. Where would you be? What would you be doing? Who would you be giving to? What would you be able to do? What would be different? Write those things down right now. I'll give you just a few more moments to write those things down before we move on. This is important because if you can't connect to your fears and you can't identify the price that you've paid to have these fears, and you don't have a vision of what you could be without these fears, the content I want to give you may not be as valuable to you in the next few moments. So I want to make sure you have these things down, because this is the whole reason I'm absolutely committed this year in my life to forcing myself to do things that before this year I would have been afraid to do. And that's what I want the same thing for you. So if you've got those things written down and you're ready to move on, if you don't mind, just go ahead and maybe raise your hand again. I like this little thing because it kind of signifies and helps me see that you're tracking. I'm used to being in front of a live audience, so this webinar type setting is different for me. So go ahead and raise your hand if you've gotten things written down, and I'll see if it shoots up again. Okay, we have a few people raising their hand. Great. I'm just going to give you a few more moments to do this because I know some people may be writing. Awesome. I just lowered all the hands so I can clean mine so I can see. This is cool. I'm enjoying this thing. I see more and more hands coming. Wonderful. Awesome. I see more and more hands. This is cool. I can lower all the hands and you guys can put more hands up. That helps me see everybody. Awesome. Good. All right, then let's move on. Lower all the hands. Done. I'm liking this. I'm having a good time. So let me speak to fear for a few moments now that you've seen what your fears are and the cost that you may have been paying and where you could be without it. So let me just talk generally here for a few minutes about fear, just give you some thoughts on it. Then I'm going to give you a couple keys to eradicate fear. And then I'm going to give you a commitment statement. I'm going to teach to that commitment statement for a few minutes as well. And then here in just a little bit, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask me some questions too. So if you've got a question, something very specific about what I've trained, or just something that this topic has brought up for you, know that at the end of this training, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask it, then I'll answer it in front of everybody to create value. And that'll be part of this value as well. So make sure you write that question down if you have it between now and then. So fear, one of the first things that I've learned that I've really dialed into, and I know we kind of know it consciously, but I really want you to understand it, that fear is an absolute magnifier. I mean, we kind of know that, that kind of thing, if you stare at it long enough, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's absolutely a magnifier. So it's not just like a subconscious magnifier. I was doing some studying this past year, especially towards the third quarter and fourth quarter of 2018, really dialing in because I just didn't want to come up with, feel-good content. I really wanted to come up with practical things you could use, some facts, some studies, and different things on fear. And I'm just going to give you some general things. First of all, we're only born with two fears naturally. Okay, I'm going to come back to fear as a magnifier. We're only born with two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Those are the only two fears that we're born with. But the science and psychology mixed together will tell us the average adult, 40-ish in age, no, I said 40-ish in age, walks around with over 4,000 fears on a daily basis in their life. That is science and psychology mixed through studies. We're born with two fears, but as we grow older, we actually learn and pick up, and we walk around with the weight of over 4,000, on average, different fears in our life. And the point of that, telling you that, is the studies were showing that 3,998 of them are learned fears, or things that we have picked up. I have 4 children, 14, 9, 7, and 5. And just being around even the youngest ones, realizing how much fear he still doesn't have. My youngest is Joey, and he's just so on fire and just goes around crazy. And I forgot about, he's because he has no fear. He knows no better. He was, we were down on our boat over in the month of December. We spent about 30 days on our boat over the holidays. And this kid was one, he saw me and my older son Daniel and his older brother Benaiah, out washing the boat, walking around like the outside of the boat. and you got to be careful on the sides around the rail that you're not falling in and doing it. He's like, Dad, I want to come up and help. I want to come up and help. He was like fearless. He just like wanted to get up and do it. We spent several days at the beach. We'd go over to the beach a few days, and I wouldn't even get in the water because it was too cold. But even my oldest son, one day it was a little windy and the waves were coming in. My oldest son and my second oldest son were kind of like, well, I don't know. Those look like pretty big waves. And Joey's just like running right in, to the waves, and they'll knock him down, and they're tumbling him. He gets up. He was just fearless. I mean, I forget how many fears he doesn't have, but we pick up all these fears as we go through life. And the study goes on to actually show, and this will just go back to what we talked about a moment ago, about 90% of all the fears go to one root fear. 90% of all the 4,000 fears go to one general direction. And it's the fear of what other people think. Think about how much we've allowed the fear of what other people think to rob us of our greatness. What are they going to think about me if I'm in direct sales? What are they going to think about me if I'm network marketing? What are they thinking about me if I'm going to start my own business? What are the people going to think about me if I try to create an invention that's never been done before? What are people going to think about me if I go after an entire industry and totally disrupt it from a price point that nobody else has ever even dreamed about going after? See, the fear of what other people think. But as we go into fear, you got to know fear is a magnifier. It makes things bigger than they appear. I mean, we know that because we've heard that, but there's actually a study that I read not long ago. That's actually, I'm going to give you the example of it so you all can kind of relate to it. And I touched on it briefly in a couple of Facebook live posts. But here's what they did. They took people to the rooftop of a building. Okay, they didn't tell them how high it was. Okay, they didn't tell them how high it was, but we know it was 15 stories high. Okay, so they took, I think the number was 100 people. They took 100 people to the top of this building. And they took people who were absolutely terrified of heights all the way to the other extreme of people who had no fear of heights whatsoever. And they lined them up on the edge of the top of the building, had them look over the building. Does that make sense? So we have 100 people on top of a 15-story building. They did not know how high it was. I don't know, I can't remember what they did. They blindfolded them, but didn't tell them, or, they disguised how high they were. So they had no real clue other than when they would look over the edge. And they lined the people up in order from 1 to 100. And the number one person was absolutely terrified of heights. Terrified of heights. All the way to the 100th person who was not afraid of heights at all. Does that make sense? So the closer you got to number one in the number order, the more terrified you were, the more fearful you were of heights. Did everybody look over? And did everybody write down how high they thought they were? And then they collected all the data. Well, the data showed the closer to the end of people that were terrified of heights, as they looked over, their fear actually physically distorted their eyesight and made it appear to them in their brains, how smart we are in our brains. Our brain is a brilliant tool, but it actually magnified the height. So those people averaged saying the building was, I think it was 20 or 21 stories, maybe it was 19 to 21 stories tall. Okay. So the more fearful of heights people were, the higher they actually thought they were, because when they looked over, the fear actually distorted what they saw. And the people that were at the other end of the spectrum that were not afraid of heights at all, they guessed on an average that they were 12 stories high. And remember, they're actually 15. Okay. So the people who had no fear of heights, they actually saw it as a lesser height. So that was like phenomenal data, but they wanted to double check it. So what they did was they hypnotized everybody in the reverse direction. So they made number 100 person who had no fear of heights. They made that person terrified. I mean, like just terrified of heights. And then the number one person over here in this end, who was terrified of heights, they hypnotized them and made them think they were not afraid of heights at all. And guess what they did? They did it again. They had everybody look over the edge and write down how high they thought they were. And guess what? The results totally flip-flopped. Again, the people that were afraid of heights before, who thought it was an average of 19 to 21 stories, now were hypnotized to believe they were not afraid of heights, saw it as a 12-story average. So people are, so I need hypnosis. No, there's a point to it. It's just showing you, I'm trying to show you how strong fear really is and how untrue fear can make your circumstances look. The people at the other end that weren't afraid of heights, that became afraid of height, they guessed the higher level too, the 19 to 21. So the results were exact opposite. The point was they were trying to prove that it was the fear that actually changed the perception of the truth. If you think about that, it's baffling if you really think about it. Because those people swore they knew exactly what they were looking at. They would have put money on a bet of how high they were or were not. Think about how many things that we've looked at in our life, our circumstances, and we've convinced ourselves that they're absolutely real. There's nothing we can do about them, that we've got to bow to them instead of making them bow to us. How often has fear robbed you and made you see something that wasn't even accurate, that wasn't even truth? And we don't do what we need to do to undo the fear so we can actually see the truth of what really is and what really is not. Fear is a magnifier. Fear is going to make all your problems look bigger. Fear is going to make all your fears seem more harder to overcome. If you start thinking about what people are, I can tell you right now, I can make myself a basket case right now if I wanted to between now and Thursday. If I started role playing all the what ifs again and I let fear distort my pictures in my mind, it would terrify me. But I've learned to do something different. I've learned to focus on what I want it to look like, not on what fear is trying to show me it looks like. And when I know fear is a magnifier, and you know fear is a magnifier because I just showed it to you based on the evidence, you can immediately know when you look at something and fear is scaring you, can automatically say, this probably is not as big as I'm looking at. It's probably not as big as it seems. It's probably not as hard as it appears. People are probably not going to think about me or judge me as much as I think they're going to think about me or judge me. And see, then you can bring the fear back, you can shrink it back into the right proportions because fear is a magnifier. Many of you probably have heard this before as well. Fear is a liar. Somebody typed that earlier. There's a new song out. It's called Fear is a Liar. Fear is false evidence appearing real. I know you've heard that before. I'm not the first person to say that. But I want to show you something. Fear is false evidence appearing real. See, it's our human nature to want to buy into the fear because that's who we are. It's part of our human nature. And when it's false evidence appearing real or we get scared, what's our normal reaction? We begin to run away from things. See, I'm going to tell you the greatness things that you just dreamed about a moment ago, those things that you could be without fear, you're going to bump into it. And if you're running away from everything that you get scared around, and every time you bump into fear, you run in the other direction, you are inadvertently running away from your greatness. You're running in the opposite direction. So when I began to see this in my own life at the end of 2017, I said, wait a second, I'm done with this. I'm no longer going to run away from fear. I am no longer going to run away from fear. I got to run towards it. I'm going to give you a quote that I think is a super powerful that spoke to me. When I really began to see fear as a liar, when it was false evidence appearing real, when I pulled the curtain that fear was a magnifier, here's a quote that I got from a book. And the book is called The Last Arrow by Erwin McManus. My good, very close friend, Janine Yeager, sent me this book. And as I was talking about fear, she goes, Keith, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. Here's what I want to share with you. Write this down. Here's what the quote is. I will not allow fear to move me from where I should be to where it wants me to live. Let me say that again. I will not allow fear to move me from where I should be to where it wants me to live. I would rather die facing the challenge than to exist my entire life running from it. I'm going to read it to you one more time. That's a powerful quote. I will not allow fear to move me from where I should be to where it wants me to live. I would rather die facing the challenge than exist my entire life running away from it. My point is, sooner or later, if you want to live your greatest life, you've got to stop running from it. And you got to stop and face it and understand that it's a magnifier. It's not real. You know, if I could take you into another area of my home here, just around the corner out here in our foyer. I said this years ago, and I read this quote, and it's from an anonymous person, but I love the quote, and I read it. A good friend of mine made me a wonderful piece of art with this quote on it, and here's what the quote said. Fear knocked at the door. Fear knocked at the door. Wisdom answered, and no one was there. Fear knocked at the door. Wisdom answered, and no one was there. See, we got to know better. That's why I'm trying to give you as much evidence and much knowledge as I can this evening to know better. It's a magnifier. It's false evidence appearing real. Our human nature is to run from things that we fear, but we got to stop running. See, what I'm teaching you this evening is counterintuitive to our human nature, but I'm going to tell you, to live your greatest life, you're going to have to do things that are counterintuitive to your human nature. You don't want to blend in, you want to blend out. You don't want to stand up, you don't want to sit down, you want to stand up. You don't want to be common, you want to be uncommon. If to live your greatest life, you're going to have to put yourself into a different direction than the majority of this planet is moving towards. Does that make sense? You've got to put yourself in a different direction. If you want to go with the flow and you want to settle for average, then go with everybody else. Just jump in the river and go with the current. I'm telling you right now, if you want to live your greatest life, you're going to have to do something different. You know, I used those examples earlier, like Moses, Gideon, David, Elijah, the servant. If you came to my executive office, you could look at names like John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Steve Jobs. You know, these are icons. Oprah Winfrey, these are icons of our world today that did not get where they're at, going the same direction everybody else is going. They had to look fear. They had to stop running and start facing it and doing what I'm going to begin to share with you now. So hopefully I've got your attention and you're saying, okay, Keith, okay, I've got it now. I want to eradicate it. I'm going to give you 2 keys to eradicate fear, 2 of the most important things you can do. And I know some of you are asking me to repeat different things and everything else, and I can, and I will if I see it quicker next time. And don't forget, this is recorded. So you're going to get a recording of this so you can listen to it again and again and again. I want to make sure I could go all night. I don't want to go to midnight. Unless you all ask me enough questions to go to midnight. I'm teasing. So if you were to come in my office, you'd see those things. And you would see those types of pictures. But all these people did these 2 things I want to teach you. There's 2 things that you can do to eradicate fear out of your life. I'm going to give them to you. But you're still going to have to do something different this year to get you to do these 2 things as well, because I want you to put something in place. Hopefully I'm going to give you some tools before we get done this evening as well to help you do these 2 things. But the number one way to eradicate, and it's not like one's better than the other. I just have 2. I'm going to give you one first and give you one second. The first thing you can do to eradicate fear out of your life is to grow your knowledge. To grow your knowledge. I cannot tell you how much time I've spent in my life being afraid of something that once I learned one little different piece of knowledge about, it totally eradicated the fear. Whether it's a fear in business, whether it's a fear in scaling, whether it's a fear in speaking, whether it's a fear in training, whether it's a fear in our real estate, whether it's a fear in our startup company. You know, once I was terrified of something until I learned something I didn't know before. And when I learned that piece of knowledge, it totally flattened the fear. So, I mean, if people go constantly, Keith, oh, I get that. Well, you might. But you might not. I'm really talking about it at a level of continual consistency. See, when I first mentored, when I met him, one of the first things he told me, he goes, Keith, if you want to live your greatest life, you've got to chase knowledge like most people chase money. And this is what he told me. He said, Keith, if you can train yourself, if you can condition yourself to chase knowledge like most people on this planet to chase money, it will not be long before you never have to worry about money again. I'll say it one more time. He said, Keith, if you can train yourself to chase knowledge like most people on this planet chase money, it will not be long before you never have to worry about money again. He said, Keith, be willing to do anything that's legal and moral to gain access to the level of knowledge that you want in your life. There's nothing more powerful than you can do than to grow the knowledge in your mind. That's why I'm such a fanatic around leadership and professional development and mentorship and mentorfish and all these different things that we've created as resources, because that's what it's all about, helping people gain knowledge. I mean, we all know some things about a lot of things, but we have to continually grow our knowledge. It's like if you were to walk outside and see a snake, you might be terrified of that snake, unless you realized that snake is probably not a poisonous snake. And statistically, most of where we live, it's a higher chance of not being a poisonous snake than it is a poisonous snake. So see, if you knew that piece of knowledge and you knew what kind of snake it was, you'd walk right past it. I mean, it still might be a little slimy and that kind of thing, but you're not going to be terrified like it's going to kill you type of fear. It's going to be like, okay, I already know that's not a poisonous snake. Because see, you got the knowledge. In business, it's like, hey, I know this is possible because I've watched other people do it. So you've grown your knowledge. You know, most of you, if you're in direct sales, network marketing, or you're an entrepreneur, or you've got something you want to invent, part of your fear is you have a dream and a passion, but you really haven't educated yourself in the industry, Or you really haven't educated yourself in the product knowledge? Or you really haven't educated yourself in the, in the compensation plan? Or you really haven't educated yourself in the tools and the growth you will need to be an entrepreneur to start a business from scratch? You just want it really bad. So think about that. How much time have you specifically spent educating yourself in the area that you consider your area of expertise? Or how much time have you spent educating yourself in the area that you'd like to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in, or you'd like to bring your income to a totally different level? What I'm trying to tell you is most people want to do something, but they never truly grow their knowledge and able to do it. I spend the majority of my days, I love work, I love to work, but I spend the majority of my days gaining knowledge and growing myself. That is what I do above anything else. It says people perish for a lack of knowledge. It doesn't say people perish for a lack of effort. It doesn't say people perish for a lack of money. It doesn't say people perish for a lack of passion. It says people perish for a lack of knowledge. In Proverbs, it says, wisdom is the principal thing, so get this. Wisdom. You know, Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs. Solomon, by most historians' account, was one of the wisest people to ever walk the planet. In 2007, Forbes ranked Solomon's net worth at $760 billion in today's money. I know many of you probably read the news last several days. You know, Jeff Bezos' $130 billion net worth is in the news. And he's the wealthiest person on the planet. Solomon was worth 6 times that much money. Do you think it's an accident? No. Wealth and true abundance, whether you're talking about money or fulfillment or legacy, those types of abundance, that abundance follows knowledge. It's a byproduct. So many people are trying to figure out how to short circuit the way to be successful or get money or, go around the system. Grow your knowledge. See, one of the reasons why I'm so effective when I do go to work, it's not because I'm some type of superhero or some type of genius. No, when I do go to work, because of my level of knowledge in my life, I have a lot less fear, and I can do in an hour what takes most people a day, or I can do in a day what takes most people a week, or I can do in a week what takes most people a month. Not because I'm a genius or some superhero. It's because I have that level of knowledge in my life. So when I do go to work, I'm much more effective. And I can see through fear now faster than I ever have before in my life, because I know it's false evidence appearing real. I know fear is a magnifier, and I've got knowledge in my mind. I've grown myself in my industry. I've grown myself in my professions. I've grown myself in my areas of passion, so I can do things most cannot because I've grown my knowledge. If you want to eradicate fear, grow your knowledge, even your general knowledge, because the more you know, the quicker you're going to call BS on the fear. Does that make sense? The more you know, the faster you can hit the BS. Wait a second, I'm not buying this. That doesn't sound right. That's got to be something different. I'll give you just a funny little example. I'm watching my time here too. I'm getting, but anyways, we're creating value. I'll give you an example. I was down on my boat at the beginning of December. When we first got there, we had a mechanical issue. I had a mechanic come to the boat, and this guy starts telling me all the things that it could be. And he's like, basically all I start to see is dollar signs. My frugal background, that's the last thing I want to see is dollar signs, And he's like, well, it could be this, it could be that. And, he starts giving me the laundry list of all the things it could be. But what he didn't know is that I've grown my general knowledge, not only in my boat, but in boating in general, mechanics of my boat, mechanics in general, enough to be dangerous. I'm not an expert, but I grew my knowledge enough to know that I could eliminate 3/4 of what he was telling me. So see, he wasn't trying to scare me, but most people, when they read a list of things like that, they get fearful, like, oh my gosh, it could be all these different things. But see, my knowledge eliminated 3/4 of what he already said, because I knew something he didn't know I knew. To be quite honest, I actually didn't hire this mechanic because I could tell very quickly he was more interested in trying to tell me all the things that it was than trying to figure out the one thing that it might be. And so all I saw was, I just didn't like the relationship. And so I took a few things he said, my knowledge, went to online, Googled, and would you believe this? I narrowed it down to 2 potential things from my own knowledge, went after both of them by growing my knowledge, looking at research, looking at blogs, looking at other people who have the same problem, especially in today's world, and I fixed it myself. Had another mechanic come and verify that I had fixed it. And they're like, wow, who'd you have? I'm like, I figured it out myself. It eliminated fear because I grew my knowledge. This is an example. At first, I was afraid, but then I remembered everything I knew, and I eliminated half of what he was telling me. So if you want to eradicate fear out of your life, one of the biggest things you can do is grow your knowledge. The second thing you can do, we're talking about eradicating fear out of your life and your business. First one is grow your knowledge. The second one is to grow your faith. To grow your faith. Now, for me, faith has two different meanings. One of them is my faith, my relationship with God. You know, my faith is one of the most important things to me in my life. I would not be where I am without my faith. But I mean faith in the spiritual realm. But I'm also talking about faith from the standpoint of what you believe is possible, your belief in what's possible. I should say it that way. So faith is not just a spiritual faith. Maybe you have a spiritual faith. I may talk about that a little bit later before we go tonight. You're the actual spiritual faith part of who you are. But you can also define faith as your level of belief, your level of belief in what's possible. So we're talking about eradicating fear. So if you want to eradicate fear out of your life, build your faith in what's possible. You say, Keith, that sounds great. How do you recommend that we do that? Well, there are many different things that you can do. One of the things that I do to grow my faith is, I'm going to read off my list here. I wrote them down. I look for examples. You know, if you come into my office, there's a reason why I have Steve Jobs, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Andre Agassi, Michael Jackson. You go down our Hall of Greatness in our headquarters here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you walk down our Hall of Greatness, you'll see pictures like Oprah Winfrey, Nelson Mandela, Warren Buffett, Winston Churchill, Bill Gates, Jesus Christ, all these different icons, because they build my belief in what's possible. See, it's hard for you to be afraid if you're staring at an example of something you would like to do, or if you're staring at an example of somebody who has made your impossible possible. You know, when I look at Steve Jobs and I look at his picture, I think, you know, I'm not condemning or condoning any of these people across the board, which except, of course, one. But you've got to grow your faith. When I look at Steve Jobs, I think, wait a second. This guy flipped 4 industries. See, I'm building my belief. I'm building my belief in what's possible. This guy flipped 4 different entire industries. He disrupted 4 totally different industries in what most would consider to be a short lifetime. So if he can do 4, I can do 2. I can do the leadership industry. I can do the health and wellness industry. If he did 4, I can do 2. See, I'm saying you build your belief. I watch biographies. I read inspiring stories. I read all the from the rags to riches stories. I devour documentaries. I devour biographies. You know, I love Netflix, Hulu, all these different things too. And of course, I've done my fair share of getting hooked on a good series and that kind of thing. But I can tell you this more than anything. I listen to all the stories about bands, about musicians, about artists, about entrepreneurs, about all the different stories, because if they can do it, what am I doing? I'm building my belief. If you watch it happen to enough other people and you see it enough, you're going to start to believe in yourself more as well. So I put these things all around me because that builds my belief. It inspires me. It encourages me. And it reminds me that all things are possible. And I cannot convince myself something's impossible if I'm staring at an example of somebody who's made my impossible possible. You know, I had a client a while back that said, Keith, what if you want to do something that's never been done before? How will you find inspiration and faith for that? How would you build your belief? If you want to do something that's never been done before, how would you build your belief for that? That's easy. Find somebody else that has done something that's never been done before and figure out what they went through, figure out what it looked like, figure out how they managed it. Because see, there's always an example that you can learn from. That's why I love mentorship so much. So how do you eradicate yourself of fear? You build your knowledge, you build your faith. You do those things. It's important to understand that, because I can tell you them, but if you don't do them, you're not really going to experience anything different than you currently have right now. I wish I had more time to get into this particular training, because there's one thing that gives you both of those things at the same time. There's all different kinds of ways to grow your knowledge, and there's all different kinds of ways to build your belief. But there's one thing that gives you both of those things at the same time. There's one thing, if you pursue in your life, they'll build both your belief and your knowledge. And that is the art of mentorship. Truly getting involved in a mentoring relationship. The highest level of transfer of knowledge is mentorship. And mentorship is being around somebody that has something you would like to have, or is at some place you'd like to be. Like I said a moment ago, you can't convince yourself it's not possible if you're in a relationship with somebody who's made your impossible possible in their life. That's why I love mentorship. It both builds my belief, because I'm looking at somebody that's doing what I want to do, that's already been through what I'm doing. They're already beyond it. They're beyond my level of experience. And I'm growing and learning my knowledge because they're teaching me everything they've already learned. And I'm accelerating my own path. That's why I'm a fanatic about mentorship. I'm not going to get into it tonight because many of you know my passion around it. Mentorship's an accelerator. Mentorship is like wisdom without the pain. Mentorship is allowing somebody else's hindsight to become your foresight. Think about this. We all know hindsight's 2020. Well, guess what? If you want foresight that's 2020, get next to somebody's hindsight that's at where you want to be, and their 2020 hindsight will become your 2020 foresight. You eradicate fear out of your life by growing your knowledge and building your faith. But see, I know most of us still won't do it. Just even knowing that, most of us still won't do it. You've got to make a commitment to yourself. I want to give you a commitment statement this evening and give you a few more thoughts before we get into questions here. My goal, just so you know, if you're tracking time, is to be able to wrap up by 10, or I'll stay a little longer if some of you have questions. But this was more than just a 30 to 40 minute quick, nice training. I really wanted to give you something very tangible to really get you in the right direction for 2019 and to eradicate fear out of your life and out of your business this year. So see, sometimes in life we want things. We'll talk about them. We'll convince other people that we want them and we're going to do, but then we still really don't. At the end of 2017, when I was wrestling with fear and I was walking through some of the very same things you went through this evening, I listed the fears of my life. I listed the cost that I was paying for those fears of my life. And I wrote some very specific notes on what I felt like my life would look like without those fears. And then I came up with a commitment statement. I was just, honestly, I was in my prayer time. I was in my study time. And I made a commitment statement because I just got so angry with fear that I came up with this commitment statement. I want to share with you all, and I want to give you a couple of key points to think about. Here was my commitment statement. And without a commitment statement, you're not really going to do anything, because until you get committed, you're just going to continue settling for what you've already had. So here's my commitment statement. I said, I'm fed up and I'm unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. When I began to stop running from fear and I began to start staring at fear and stop running from it, I looked it straight in the eyes. I turned around and stopped running from fear. And I said, you know what? I'm fed up and I'm unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. I'm not going to bow to you. You are going to bow to me because I'm fed up and I am unwilling to surrender to you. I'm going to decide consciously to keep moving forward. I am fed up and I'm unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. And that commitment statement I've used the entire year of 2018. When I saw fear and I began to feel it inside of me, I said, wait a second, I'm not engaging with it. I'm not bowing to it. I'm going to make it bow to me. I am fed up and I'm unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. And that was just my commitment statement that I would say, like a mission statement, if you will, for 2018. And I'm taking it into 2019 as well. Because I'll tell you what, it's my fear commitment statement. I am fed up and I'm unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. So write that commitment statement down. And I'm going to encourage you. It was something that spoke to me. Hopefully it'll speak to you. And when you start feeling fear this year, you can say that commitment. Wait a second. I'm not diving into this. I'm fed up with fear and I'm unwilling to surrender to it. I'm going to consciously decide to keep moving forward. So I want to break that down a little bit for you, because it's important not just to hear the commitment statement, but that you understand the importance of what the commitment statement is saying. Okay. Fed up. I want to talk to that for a second. I want to give you 4 key words here I'm going to speak to for a second so you can really see the power in this commitment statement. The 4 key words are fed up, unwilling, consciously keep. Fed up, unwilling, consciously keep. So let me speak to this for a second. The truth is this. Let's go back to the weight example. Until you are totally fed up with not being at the weight that you'd like to be at, you're never going to change it. Until you are totally fed up with fear in your life, you're not going to do anything about it. That's why I had you write down the cost earlier. So hopefully that you could say, wait a second, why have I been paying this? I refuse to accept this. I'm fed up with this. I'm not going to pay the price anymore. Let me give you an example of a story, because this is what I mean by fed up. Not too long ago, my wife and I went to a sushi place here in Tulsa. And one of the rolls was horrible. My wife and I, we love sushi. We eat it all the time. She took a bite in the sushi roll. She immediately knew it was horrible. She spit it out, literally on a plate, and said, sorry, I can't eat this. And so just like any restaurant, very rarely do we complain or do we say anything. But this roll was unacceptable. They took it back. But when they brought me the bill, it was still on the bill. And I thought, well, first I just gave them the benefit of the doubt. And I said, they'll probably just forgot to take it off. So I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, but you forgot to take this off the bill. If you wouldn't mind taking off the bill, it'd be great. It was great other than that, but please don't forget to take it off the bill. She said, okay. So she goes away. She comes back a few minutes later. And I could tell something was immediately beginning to happen because I could tell her energy walking toward me, because when you've been around the block as long as I have for 20 years and speaking in front of many audiences I have in 20 years, you can read people pretty effectively. So I knew something was up. She came back, she goes, "Sir, I'm so sorry. I'm brand new here. And I'm so sorry that, I didn't explain this effectively. We can't, I can't take this off because I knew, and I'm still in training. If I take it off, they're going to take it out of my pay, this kind of thing." And I'm like, I started listening to him like, whoa. Immediately I knew I was getting conned. They're immediately going to try to make me feel guilty about asking for it to be taken off. Instead of doing the right thing, they're going to try to make me feel bad and make me feel uncomfortable just to get me to pay. I said, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry you're new, and I totally understand that, but best business practices, just we didn't eat it. We ate everything else. I was even here a week and a half ago with my entire company and spent hundreds of dollars. It was just something we weren't satisfied with. So please tell your manager to take it off." So she comes back, tells me the same thing again, like with a bigger guilt trip. Like, "I'm so sorry, I'm new and I'm afraid he's telling me I can't take it off. I'm afraid if I really push the envelope that I'm going to get fired, blah, blah, blah." You can imagine where it was going. But here's where I got to. I got fed up. I immediately knew they were trying to rip me off, just like fear has been ripping you off. I said, "You know what? The price is too high. I'm not listening to it anymore. I was fed up. I'm not going to be conned into paying a price I no longer need to pay." See the analogy? That's how we got to get with fear. So I just very calmly told the lady, I said, "I'm so sorry. You've got two choices. I will pay, and as soon as I walk out the door, I'm going to Yelp this place and tell the exact story of what just happened. Or you can do the right thing and take it off my bill, and we'll pay the remaining part of the bill, and we'll leave." And so she came back a third time and said, "We've got taken care of." The manager finally said I could take it off. She gave me the ticket. As she gave me the ticket, here's what she told me. She bent over and said, "I'm so sorry, sir, I had to do that to you. My manager makes me do that to people. I'm sorry I had to do that. If you don't want to tip me, you don't even have to tip me. They take my tips too." And see, I knew I was getting conned, but the point was I got fed up, and there was no way I was going to pay for that sushi roll because I was being conned, and they were trying to make me feel uncomfortable, and I just got so passionately irate. Now, I wasn't rude, I wasn't mean, I didn't jump up and down and scream, but I'm just saying, you got to get to that level in your life with fear where you tell yourself, "I refuse to pay this cost. I'm no longer willing to settle for something that I know is not right, that I know is ripping me off. I'm no longer going to pay this price because fear is ripping me off." You got to get that kind of fed up, because see, until you do, you're never going to do anything with fear. You're never going to do anything with it. So you got to get that fed up. So I encourage you, as we get done here the latest night, maybe even into tomorrow, the next 3 days, as you're thinking about this, or maybe you're watching this again, really dial in. This is the first practical step on how to help you overcome fear and eradicate it this year. Identify the costs. Connect to the cost and say, "Wait a second, I'm no longer willing to pay this cost." And get it and put it in front of you in such a way that you get fed up. Maybe you go into your room at night. Maybe you go into your kids' rooms at night while they're sleeping, and you stare at them and say, "Wait a second. Where's my fear of other people and what they've thought about me? Where's that kept me from starting this business I want to start? Where's that kept me from approaching that person I think might be great in my real estate company or my network marketing company? And because I didn't do those, I haven't been able to get for my children what I would like to have gotten for them this year." Do something that jars you to an awakening state that says, "I'm fed up and I'm no longer willing to pay that price." Okay? Because once you get fed up, you now have hope. You now have hope. But see, it's not going to be an easy road. Just because you're fed up and I've given you some tools here and you've gotten that point, doesn't mean it's going to be an easy road. You've got to make an absolute commitment that as you journey forward, you've got to develop an unwillingness to surrender. I'm fed up and unwilling to surrender. I'm fed up, unwilling, consciously keep. So we're on unwilling right now. You've got to be unwilling to give in. You've got to be unwilling to give up. Let me give you an analogy. You've got to put something in place in your life, like I'm doing right now in my life. My grandfather was a World War II vet. My father was a Vietnam vet. My grandfather stormed the beaches in Normandy. And he said they had to understand something, that once they got on that beach, there was no retreat. There was no going back. The boats weren't made to pick them back up and go the other direction. The boats were made to get them to the shore and onto the beach. So what I'm saying is, you've got to put something in place in your life that makes you unwilling or incapable of surrendering or going back. You've heard this way back in the old days. Sometimes when they go into battle, they would burn the bridges behind them. or they would sink the boat so people knew they could not surrender. They had to get themselves to an unwilling state. They were unwilling to go back. They were unwilling to surrender. They burned the bridges and sank the boats. You got to put something like that in place in your life, some type of protocol that makes you unwilling. You got to get that grit, if you will, to be unwilling to give in, to be unwilling to give up. Let me give you a kind of a funnier example that might connect to you very, very well. How many of you have ever had an argument, I'm not saying I have, with your spouse, and you sound something like this? That's not what I said. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is, dear. That's what you said. Honey, I love you, but it's not what I said. I see hands going up. I'm starting to see hands, more hands. No, it's not, dear. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Okay. I may have done that once or twice. My wife's home now, so she may come in and say, nod her head really big behind me. I may have done it once or twice in my career. I don't really know for sure. I can't remember. My memory's foggy, but you get the point. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. That's not what I said. Yes, it is. And you get to that point where you will go on like that kids game. You'll say it for hours because you are unwilling to give in. Now do you know what I'm talking about? And see, in those stupid little circumstances, and that's a funny example, we get ourselves to the point where we are unwilling to surrender, even for the sake of bringing peace into our relationship. Like something snaps in us. I'm like, nope, I didn't say it. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. And we will not stop. You were unwilling to give in. You have that last, you want to get the last word in. You got to have that level of unwillingness. That's why this commitment statement is so strong. I am fed up and unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. You've got to get to that place where you're unwilling. Think about that last time you had like a funny fight like that, or you think about other analogies like I gave you and say, you know what, I can't go back. I'm not going back. I can't go back. I will not give in. If I cannot give in the stupid argument with my child or with my spouse, something like that, I cannot give in on this. You've got to be unwilling to surrender. Get to that level of unwillingness, because this is a stair-step deal. You've got to get fed up first. And then you've got to be unwilling to surrender. You want to know why? Because pushing through fear continually and consistently is a conscious decision. Many of you know that I work with the foundation of who we are very often, the subconscious of who we are, and learning that we have to exchange the stories in our foundation that are not serving us for ones that will. It's a subconscious belief system exchange. Truly overcoming fear is a conscious decision. You've got to learn how to train your mind to consciously see what it is you want to see if you truly want to get past fear. Let me explain this to you a little bit more in depth. It's a conscious decision. I love to say that you could switch something subconscious and you did forever. This is where it gets into that continual consistency. You've got to make a conscious decision. You know, in the book that I love to read, it was written 2,000 years ago, it says we have to die to ourselves daily. It's a daily renewal of our mind. It's a daily renewal of our mind. It's a conscious decision on a daily basis to keep moving forward. So let me tell you how to make your conscious work for you instead of work against you. Your conscious, your mind, you see everything in pictures. That's how our mind works. It's a scientific fact. Pink elephant. You can't not see pink elephant. Hot dog. You cannot not visualize hot dog. That beautiful Bahama water, that crystal clear, deep blue water, you can't not see it. See, our mind works in pictures. Our conscious mind sees things in pictures. It's a scientific fact. That's why most of when you have fear, I told you earlier, those pictures are going through my mind. That's pictures in your mind. You were role playing. What's role playing? It's pictures. See, there's unconscious replay. There's conscious replay. And then there's conscious pre-play. Now, I could get into another whole training on that, but you got to understand it's how our mind works. There's unconscious replay. You're unconsciously looking at the picture. They just spiral through your mind over and over and over again that nothing's going to work, nothing's going to work. It's a conscious picture of things not working. Or you can consciously replay things in your life that have worked for you. So your conscious mind will see those things over and over and over again. And whichever you see more, you'll move in the direction of. The most dominant image in your mind. Hear that? Image. The most dominant image in your mind will dictate the direction of your destiny. I'll say that one more time. The most dominant image in your mind will dictate the direction of your destiny. So what are you dwelling on? Whether you knew it or not, you're dwelling on a picture. Then, of course, there's conscious pre-play, where you begin to pre-play in your mind what you would like to see happen. Like I'm doing about my meeting on Thursday. I'm consciously picturing a wonderful meeting, success, complete understanding, complete clarity, complete confidence. And we're going to walk out of that meeting with a successful story of the biggest meeting in my business career to date in my life. I'm putting pictures in my mind to train my mind to see what I wanted to see, so it doesn't see what I don't want it to look at, which is the fear. So let me give you a little tip here, because this is a very practical thing you can do. Conscious mind is a habit type thing that you got to do. So what can you do on a daily basis to make sure you get the right pictures in your mind? Let me share with you what I did in my life in 2018. My wife helped me. We created a beautiful, I put them all over the place at first, but then she created a beautiful picture board of all these different examples that I could stare at and see in my conscious mind. Because see, you have control of your conscious mind if you choose to. I wanted to literally, people don't like this word, but I did. I brainwashed myself to see what I want to see. So what I did was I created some of these pictures of stories that I shared with you earlier. I put a big picture of Moses facing the Red Sea. I put a big picture of David facing Goliath. I put a picture of Daniel in the lion's den. I put a picture of Elijah and the servant at the gate of the city. I put a picture of Gideon at the bottom of the hill with 300 soldiers getting ready to go face tens of thousands of soldiers. I put pictures, just like the pictures I described to you that are in my office building, of these icons and people that have disrupted industries and changed our world and given at levels that most people never even dreamed about giving. I put pictures of these people in front of me so I can consciously focus on examples of people who've done what I would describe as miraculous. And I force myself every morning and every evening, at the minimum, to stare at those pictures and really ponder, what would it be like to really have experienced what they've experienced? If they can experience it, I can experience it. If I can picture them doing that, then I could probably picture myself going out and being successful at a little business meeting on Thursday. Does that make sense? It kind of puts everything in perspective. But see, you've got to take the effort to put that protocol in your life. Otherwise, your conscious mind will run amok. So you got to make a conscious decision. You got to be fed up, unwilling, conscious. Are you controlling the pictures that are in your mind? Put the protocol and the things and the tools in place and the trigger devices to help you see the things that will give you the higher likelihood to go out. Because see, when I see those pictures, it puts everything in perspective. I don't have as much fear. I'm like, well, they can do that, I can do this. If he can do 4 years, I can do 2. If that person can stand in the face of opposition, so can I. If that example is not afraid of what people think, then I don't need to be either. And I put those pictures of people in my mind over and over and over and over and over and over again in my mind. Because see, your conscious mind will dictate the direction of your destiny. Your conscious mind will dictate the direction of your destiny. The most dominant image in your mind will dictate the direction of your destiny. So what are you dwelling on? That's how you control your conscious mind. Fed up, unwilling, consciously keep. And keep is about continual consistency. It's not a one-day deal. It's not a one-week deal. It's not going to be a one-year deal, but you can eradicate fear out of your life when you put these things in place and you put the protocol in place, the accountability in place to keep yourself moving forward. Now, to keep yourself being continually consistent, you've got to put a protocol in your life. For me, one of the largest protocols in my life is mentorship. My mentors hold me accountable. They keep me focused. They keep me moving forward. See, it's a bunch of keep words. They keep this protocol in my life because I'm not interested in just being successful one day. I'm not interested in just losing a few pounds one time. I'm interested in building a lifestyle of feeling the fear and moving towards it, not running away from it. So I got things in my life physically, protocol, that keep me from moving backwards. Like they physically will not allow me to move backwards. They force me to go forward. So keep, if you hear the word keep, think about what protocol can you put in your life to keep you continually consistent, whether it's a risk or a reward for continual consistency, whether it's a physical mentoring relationship with somebody that you've got to answer to that holds you accountable. When I do my mentoring calls with our clients, I give them a homework assignment. They have to do it before they can have another phone call with me. It keeps them moving forward. I put myself to my own risk and rewards in my life to make sure my intention is big enough to move me forward. See, we have intentions to move forward, but we also have intentions to avoid discomfort and avoid rejection. It's called conflicting intentions. I teach about it in our Greatness Bootcamp. We've got to raise the intention. The biggest intention always wins. So how can you raise your intention in such a way, put the protocol in place in your life to keep you moving forward? Because doing it once or twice will not eradicate fear. You've got to keep doing it. You've got to keep moving forward. Build that continual consistency. That's why I love that commitment statement. I was fed up. I still am. I'm fed up and I am unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. Be fed up. Be unwilling. Consciously keep. Those are keys to you moving yourself in a direction this year that maybe you've never done before. I hope you take this commitment. I hope you've written it down. I hope you will listen to this training again and again and write that commitment statement. As I begin to close here, and I know there's a couple questions and I'll get to them in just a second, I want to give you a closing quote. And when I read this quote, it literally began to shift how I look at everything. Because I thought there's going to come a day where I'm no longer here. There's going to come a day where it doesn't matter how much money I've made or haven't made. It's all going to be about a legacy or an impact or an influence that I leave behind. And when I read this quote, it kind of brought it together for me. It lit my passion at an even higher level, which is one of the reasons why I'm stepping into doing more and more things like this, specifically to eradicating fear out of your life. Here's the quote. If we could only look at your footprints, do your feet mark where fear has driven you or where your faith has taken you? Think about that. Once you're gone, and people can only look at your legacy, your kids, your children can only look at your legacy, and they can only look at the footprints that you left behind. What would they see? Do your feet mark where your fear has driven you or where your faith has taken you? And again, that's another quote from Erwin McManus in his book, The Last Arrow. And when I read that quote, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, you know what? Even though I've been blessed, even though I've done, cool things and amazing things, if I really were going to be honest with myself, my footprints are still showing more times than not where fear has driven me rather than where my faith has taken me. And that's where I made that commitment statement. I said, you know what? I'm no longer going to allow that. No way am I going to sit by and let people look at my footprints and be a path to fear where driven me. I want people to see my footprints and see where faith can take me. And that's where I got so angry. I said, you know what? I'm fed up and I'm unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. I want my footprints to show and prove where fear not will rob me, but where my faith will take me. And that's my passion, man. So hopefully you wrote that quote down and think about that in your own life, because for me, this is bigger than motivation. It's practical. It's real. These things you can do on a daily basis and begin to do them right now. And I'm going to put something out to you. I want you all to think about, because I'm going to be clear. There's a lot of areas where, I'm considered quote unquote an expert in, or an industry leader in. My nickname in the industry is the mentor. But this fear thing is so important to me. I've been thinking about what could I do? What could I create that would really help people create practical, implementable things in their life to walk along with them to totally help them eradicate fear in their life. So I'm going to ask you all this evening to put some thought into it. And you can send me an email. Many of you know me. You can post on Facebook. You can send me a private message. My email is Keith, Keith, at mentorship.com. Keith at mentorship.com. What would you like to have created to serve you? What would you need? I thought everything from, do I create a one-day eradicating fear event? Is it a 2-day event? Is it a monthly meeting? Because I almost look at fear as an addiction. So many people are addicted to fear and nobody wants it. It's the biggest addiction everybody's addicted to, but nobody knows how to break it. Is it a monthly meeting? Is it a 12-step program? Is it we create, local meetings all over the place and we all Zoom in together once a month and we share stories of fear and overcoming fear, or a place where we can all come just like you would be. And I've had several close people in my life been through an alcohol recovery 12-step type program. What could we put in place? What could we create? Because see, what I'm passionate about, even more than a business model, What I'm passionate about is creating something that we can create a movement to help people eradicate fear, because I know if we can eradicate fear out of our lives and businesses, more of us will begin to live our greatest life than just settling for our good life. And I want to create something. And I'm being like authentic. Like normally I have answers and ideas, but Michelle's like, well, just ask. What would people like? What would they think? What would we create for brainstorming ideas? Because I'm not really concerned about a business model as much as I am concerned about creating something that can truly walk along with you, because this is not a journey that you're going to want to do on your own. It's not a journey that I do on my own. And how can we come together and create a movement of people handling fear? You know, many of you have probably seen I have a collar shirt on, but I put my fear shirt on tonight. That's the lion chasing me, and I'm not running from it. It says, here I am. I'm no longer running from it. And on the back of the shirt, let's see if I can turn around. Many of you have seen this before. It has has our logo on it. And you can make up any word you want to put there. You know, if you take our commitment statement and you take those 4 key words, fed up, unwilling, consciously keep, and you put that in Hangman style in front of the word fear, you're going to get my true passion around what I'm doing to fear this year. I'm no longer allowing fear to rob me. I'm effing fear this year. And, you know, you can, if you don't like that word, I'm okay with it. I'm not condemning or condoning it. It's not like I'm going to say it from stage to stage every area of my life. I can tell you this. That's how this came to me. That's how angry I got with fear. That I'm going to F fear this year in my life. I'm no longer surrendering to it. I'm going to make it bow to me. I'm no longer bowing to it. If you don't like that word, I wrote down a whole bunch of other words you can use right there in that Hangman. You can say hate fear, stop fear, halt fear, free yourself from fear, move fear out of your life, kick fear out of your life, beat fear out of your life, kill fear out of your life, push it out of your life, slap it out of your life. You can use whatever word you want. That's the word that just came to me. And that's the level of passion that I had to this. And that's how serious I am about it. I'm not surrendering to it. I'm out of it. I'm done with it. I'm eradicating myself from fear. And if you want to walk along with me this year in it, help me create whatever it would be to really help serve us as a group of people. And then let's spread the word, because so many people need this. No different than an addict needs something to help them break those things off their life. So many people are living in the bondage of fear, and I want to help them break it off their life so they can live their greatest life. You know, I've said this F fear now a few times, so I've had a few pieces of pushback on it and feedback. Please do not send me any feedback about me saying F fear. I have a very strong faith background. All of you know that. I love God. I love my relationship with him more than anything. He actually gave me this, believe it or not, in a time of prayer. And so don't judge me or this training based on me saying F fear. I always tease with people, and I just say, you know what? When's the last time you overlooked that word in a movie that you liked or a song that you liked, and you overlooked it there and had no problem watching it again or listening to it again, and that was just for entertainment? So please don't send me any feedback on something I'm trying to give to you to really help you move through fear this year. And my faith is absolutely intact, even though I said F fear. So I appreciate the thoughts, but that's just my opinion. And that's enough said probably on that topic. But I will tell you this, as we're closing, I'm going to answer a couple questions. There is one thing that I cannot get off this training without telling you. I know we're a little over right now, but that's the quality of the training. It's recorded. If you need to finish some other time, you can finish it another night. But I would not be doing you justice if I didn't tell you the true key of overcoming fear. And that is your faith. And I'm talking about spiritual faith. I can promise you this. I probably would not be on this planet still this day if it wasn't for my relationship with Jesus Christ as my Savior. If you don't have that relationship, send me a private message or a text or whatever you want that you feel comfortable with. And I want to introduce you to the ultimate thing that will help you whip fear. Because you know what it says? It says the thief came to steal, kill, and destroy, but he came to give us life and give us life more abundantly. You know, if you want the scriptural basis for this training, I'll give it to you really quick. In 1 Peter 5:8, here's what it says. It says the devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. The devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's not a lion. He's like a lion. He's trying to scare everybody with his loud roar. In 2 Chronicles 16, verse 9, it says, for the eyes of the Lord seek to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of a heart that is committed to him. See, God's looking to and fro for people that he may stand strong on their behalf and help them experience the miraculous. And see, when we allow ourselves to get positioned here, like Moses was up against the Red Sea, Gideon was at the bottom of the hill, when we allow ourselves to get in position that normally we would not allow ourselves because of fear, but when we overcome fear, we allow ourselves to get positioned there where he wants to stand strong on our behalf, then he's going to do what he says he's going to do in John 10:10. He says, I'm going to give you life and give it to you more abundantly. I'm going to give you life and life more abundantly. Many of you know how that blends into my true abundance training. I have a tattoo on my back. The tattoo is abundance because abundance is chasing me. He's bringing it into my life. And so when we stand up to fear and we don't allow it to rob us, because greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world, and we don't have to run from fear, we can stop and face it. I stopped running from fear. And I said, fear, here I am. Come and get me, because I'm not bound to you anymore. I'd rather die facing it than spend my entire life running from it. I'm going to tell you what, when you stand up to it, it'll run away like every other coward in your life will run away. So I just wanted to close it with that and say, hey, if you want the real solution how to overcome fear, reach out to me if you don't have that solution, and I will share with you my faith. If you have no interest in my faith, don't ask me that question. It was still a great training tonight. So let's get to some questions here. I'm going to jump onto my Q&A. What advice do you have for somebody in network marketing trying to use social media to grow their business? I love it. I love social media. I think I'm obviously on social media more now than I've ever been, and I'm trying to do that. But I will tell you this: a lot of people use social media to hide behind their fear because they're afraid to go out and talk to people one-on-one. I love social media. Will it help you grow your business? Absolutely. But I will also tell you this: you will never go to the top of your company only using social media. I don't care. Maybe it's my personal opinion, but in direct sales network marketing, there's always going to be a face-to-face value or a belly-to-belly value. And a lot of people hide behind social media, use it for networking, using it for getting the word out there, use it for garnering interest in what you do, but don't use it as a tool to hide behind. Because we live in a world today that's so text-oriented, so social media-oriented, we're losing our connection with other people. And we use it to hide behind the fear of rejection, the fear of what other people think. So use it for what it can be, but don't hide behind it. And you will never totally grow your entire business to the top only using social media, because network marketing is a people business. So hopefully that's good. Next question. What personal development books do you recommend? Another great question. Personal books I recommend, obviously, my favorite book of all is the Bible. So I read that very, very quickly. I mean, it takes time, but I get into it at some level very quickly because that's part of what this is. If you're not familiar with the Bible, maybe get into the book of Proverbs. Read a book a day. There's 31 Proverbs. Read a book a day. It's a book of wisdom. That's a great thing to do. My other favorite books, I have a hit list in my boot camp. I love Think and Grow Rich. I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've enjoyed a lot of Tony Robbins' teaching. Him and I go a little bit different directions faith-wise. And he actually says the F word, so there you go. And people love him. He's number one in the industry. But I go a little different place in faith than he does. I love Leadership and Self-Deception. I love The World's Greatest Salesman by Og Mandino. I just got done reading a book. It was called Think Differently, Live Differently by Bob Hamp. Bob Hamp, great book, great book. I mean, those are a few of my books. I mean, I devour about a book or two per week. Those are a couple that come to my mind right here. Good question. Let's see if we got another question. I think we got one more. After years of getting rejection, my fear has led to depression, anxiety, and has paralyzed me from that action. I don't have a mentor that I can rely on, but I'm committed to make this work. I still have a strong vision and need advice for where to go for help building my faith. I'm going to take this as an opportunity because I believe I have a resource that I've created from a place of service, a place of passion. And it's called mentorfish.com. Some of you may know about that. Some of you are familiar with me. You know me. Some of you may not be. But it's not a shameless plug. I would encourage you to go to mentorfish.com. It's a lifestyle resource. It's not a product. It's not a course. It's not an upsell type of deal. It's a lifestyle resource for people to plug into so you can get this so you can grow your knowledge on a daily basis. You can build your faith because I talk about faith. I talk about stories. I talk about inspirational stories. It's not just me. I've interviewed over 36 of the world's top leaders in that community. And be prepared. It's a whole whopping $9.90 a month. It's less than your Netflix membership, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. Become a member. Start at $9.90 a month. You're going to make a 12-month commitment. It's $9.90 a month. It's 2 cups of coffee. Two tall something from Starbucks. It'll cover it. It's less than your Netflix membership. It's a resource for people just like you that ask that question, to give a place for people to plug into that's not going to send them into long-term debt and thousands of dollars. I'm not knocking anybody else's business model, but everything that we've created is a cause-based business model to really give these kind of resources to people who want them the most, or normal to people, at least at the beginning, can't afford them the most. So go to mentorfish.com. That also reminds me is one other thing I want to put. One of the biggest fears people have, and I believe a lot of you are in network marketing and direct sales on the call tonight, or have something to do with speaking in front of people. One of the biggest fears people have is speaking in front of other people. Science will tell you it's the #1 fear on the planet now. It has officially surpassed death. The #1 fear people have is speaking in front of people, dying, and running out of money. Those are the top 3 fears. If you're in the public industry of speaking in any level, not public industry, if you're in the business of speaking publicly at any level, shape, or form, whether it's one-on-one, if your revenue in any way is linked to your mouth, I have a speaking clinic. If you go to keithkotner.com, I have a speaking clinic, and I can promise you by the time you're done with this 10-week online clinic, it'll help you get over your fear of speaking in front of people. Think about that. How are you going to be successful if you're afraid to talk to people? And I'm going to talk about fear. I talk about how to communicate effectively, how people hear. I talk about all different kinds of things. I'm not even going to describe the whole thing to you. keithkotner.com, and you click on the speaking clinic. It'll tell you the entire course there. We sell online magazine articles, magazine marketing, all different kinds of things. It sells all the time for $895. But I thought as an extra little thank you for those of you that are here tonight on the phone, if you're interested in it, you're not going to build a website. You'll need to email Jessica, my assistant, Jessica at mentorshipmastery.com. Jessica at mentorshipmastery.com. You have to take action. You'll have to email her, call the office. I'm going to authorize her tomorrow to give you a discounted price since it's 2019. I said, I'll take out the 0. I'll sell it to you for $219. Whatever the discount is, you can do the math. Over $895, it's over a $700 savings. I want to be of contribution this year. I want to give more this year than I've ever given before. And I thought that'd be a great way to start, knowing that fear of speaking is the #1 fear out there. If you're in business, get the clinic. I 100% guarantee the fear factor will be overcome in speaking by going through this clinic. If you're not satisfied in any way, call us up 10 weeks from now, call us up 10 years from now, and we will give you your $219 back. But I thought, if I can be a blessing to you, you took a step out tonight. You've got me in your schedule. We've been on the phone now for almost going on 2 hours on this Zoom call. And I appreciated that. And I have a tool that will help you get over that and help you generate business and revenue in your career. I guarantee it 100%. Lifetime warranty, 0 risk. I thought since it's 2019, take out the 0. I'll discount it to $219, but you've got to call Jessica between now and Friday. I'm not going to do it like a forever deal. Oh, remember me a year ago? I was on that call you did. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, my phone just went lower because of my battery. You're not going to call me a year from now and say, I was on that call. You have until Friday. Friday night at midnight. Let's make it official. Friday night at midnight. Call Jessica, email Jessica, and I've authorized her to sell it for you to $219, and I'll guarantee it. So I think those are all my questions I had for the evening. Does anybody else have anything they want to throw in the last minute? If you do have another question, feel free to post it on our social media, and I'll get an answer to you. That might be another way to do it. If you listen to this again and you have more questions than you asked tonight, post it. I'll answer it. Don't forget about the challenge. Post something you learned here on your social media. Tag us in it. We'll do a drawing Friday morning. I'm going to give a free 30-minute mentoring call to you and your business, you and your staff, however you want to leverage it. I'm going to donate to you a 30-minute call. When I do consulting, it's $1,000 an hour, so it's a $500 value. So MentorFish is $990. The special speaking clinic, if you speak at all, $219. And post something that you created value from in our time together this evening. and tag me in it, and we'll do a drawing Friday morning, and I'll give somebody a 30-minute free mentoring call. I just want to tell you how much fun I had tonight. I hope you all created value by being on this call. I loved it. I wanted to do something that was more than just a fast 30 or 40-minute training. I really wanted to help get your mind in the direction for 2019. So this year, you can eradicate fear out of your life and out of your business and do it in a continually consistent way. So I know it wasn't easy for you to be on this whole time. You're going to have this recording between now and the end of the month as well. So it's not like if you missed it tonight or you had to jump off or you have other friends. I had somebody, I think, even post, will I sell it to somebody else afterwards? We'll talk about that at the office tomorrow. If you know somebody that missed it tonight that may want it, we may set up an after the fact link. So maybe they can get it for $19 too and have it for the next 2 weeks. So we'll put that out there if we can do that. But I just appreciate y'all being on tonight. I appreciate all of you. God bless you. And remember, 2019, F fear. I hope to talk to you all again, fear. Have a great night. God bless. See ya. You're welcome. Good night. Good night. God bless.